Welcome. Today is going to be the first of many videos I'm going to be making over the course of probably the next 5-6 months, documenting, or should I say, reviewing every single episode of Star Trek ever. Now, a lot of people when they hear that, they're like gonna think, whatever, that you're gonna review a show. Star Trek is probably next to maybe Doctor Who, well, next to definitely Doctor Who, is the biggest sci-fi franchise basically ever. Maybe not in terms of monetary worth, probably, but just in sheer scale and length of time that it's been on TV. So I think Star Trek and Doctor Who are number 1 and 2. Not in that order, but you know what I'm saying. They're the 2 longest running science fiction franchises ever in history. Star Trek itself is 4 or 5 shows: Star Trek Original Series, Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, and Enterprise. Which, I mean, just the math of it's kind of overwhelming me right now, but it's doable and we're going to do it. That's 3 seasons, 7 seasons, 7 seasons, 7 seasons, and 4 seasons. So that's 7 seasons original, and Voyager, Enterprise, which ironically Enterprise is a prequel to the original series, make 7 seasons in themselves. So that what you got there is 28 seasons of a TV show, or a TV series franchise, that we're going to be reviewing, each one approximating around 22 to 29 episodes per season, depending on which series you're watching. All of them averaging about at least 42 minutes to 55 minutes, I believe, for original series. So that's a lot of hours of TV we're going to be going through here. Obviously not in one sitting. I mean, that'd be fucking impossible, dude. You'd have to stay in your house for a month and do nothing but watch Star Trek, but we're gonna get there. And even just for fun, I might do up the math one of these days so you can know how long you would actually have to sit in a sitting to watch Star Trek. I mean, there's no way you could do it one sitting. You gotta eat and fucking sleep and stuff, but you get what I'm saying. Just for the sake of science, we might break it down one of these days to see how long it would take you watching it in 12-hour shifts every day or something like that. We're getting off topic here, though. The point is, we're going to be taking off on this monumental quest here to video review every single episode of Star Trek ever. And before we start a journey of that magnitude, I think it's important to kind of understand where this starts for me. I didn't grow up a huge fan of Star Trek. I haven't been into it my whole life. I'm not one of those huge Star Trek nerds or whatever. Not that I don't respect them. I'm a nerd in my own right, but for multiple different things. I've never really stuck to one thing. I mean, I like Battlestar Galactica, I like Star Trek, I like Star Wars, I like fucking all science fiction, really, and a lot of horror. I've always been way more of a horror nerd, and a metal nerd, I guess, than really sci-fi, until probably the last 5 to 7 years. It's been my big sci-fi boom in my life, where I'm really starting to relate a lot to that stuff more, and find those ideas a lot more interesting. So as a kid, I didn't really like Star Trek too much. I was more into Star Wars. It's funner. There's all sorts of fucking Muppet type things and Ewoks running around. It's just a lot more entertaining to the eye when you're 6, right? And at the time, my grandfather used to basically force us to watch Star Trek Next Generation. I'm not sure exactly what time of night it was on. I want to say it was right around that neighborhood of 60 minutes. So I mean, it just all kind of reeked of boring to me. And it was my grandpa making us sit down. He's like, "Here, you gotta sit here for an hour and watch this. It'll make you smarter," basically. Which just kind of tends to make kids want to tune out automatically. Which is basically what I did. I mean, I have had lots of good memories of Star Trek Next Generation and some of Deep Space Nine, but it was all of my parents and my grandpa watching it and shit. It wasn't until about 5 or 6 years ago, I was laid off work for a bit. My little brother was home because it was summertime, so he was off of school, and we were kind of sitting around up late. We would be up late every night, playing video games and shit. And we used to kind of just skip over TV Land all the time, because it's always like old sitcom-y type TV that you don't really want to see ever, you know, because it's not 1960. So we just kind of tuned it out. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of old, like, classic TV. I like classic movies a lot and shit, but that's like in small doses. Classic TV shows I've kind of strayed away from. And we were flipping through channels, and it landed on TV Land, and the beginning of Star Trek original series came up. And I never really watched a bunch of original series. It was one of those things I kind of grew up just seeing stuff that made, like, you know, satire of it or whatever, kind of making fun of it type stuff. I never really actually watched a lot of it, you know. And so I guess just kind of as a joke at first, we sat there and started watching it. And, you know, of course, at first we're laughing at it and kind of poking fun at it. And then within about 10 minutes, we were both just sitting there kind of mesmerized and glued to the screen. I mean, it was like we couldn't believe how entertaining what we were seeing was. And even with the kind of cheesy dated special effects and stuff, it was all buyable. You know, like I could believe that maybe, you know, there could be a future like that. So I mean, needless to say, once we watched enough of it, you know, like I said, kind of went from being something that we thought was funny to being something we started doing, you know, every night, to being something we started buying and collecting, and it just kind of all snowballed. And so now I own, at the moment, Star Trek original series in its entirety, all of the movies, and then Star Trek Next Generation in its entirety and all of the movies. I'll be working on buying Voyager and Deep Space Nine and Enterprise, but thanks to the wonderful deal they've made with Netflix and making all of them available to watch instantly, we will be able to get those reviews done a lot. And it just kind of made me like kick myself a little bit, because you look back and you see all the time that you missed out when you could have been enjoying like the newer incarnations of Star Trek as it was newer. I mean, even recently, just before that, we had a roommate that was living with us, and we would always rag on him because if like Voyager was on, he was totally unavailable. Like, don't ask him to do anything because he's just going to tell you to fuck off, basically, because Voyager's on. And I mean, you know, after like taking the time and sitting down, and after a certain level of maturity had been reached in our lives, we could understand like, hey, there's something entertaining here. Not only just entertaining, but like vastly entertaining, and it just makes your imagination get to going once you watch enough Star Trek, and you really start to think about how much better a place the world would be if it were like that. That's enough sappiness, though. Basically, what I'm trying to get across to you here, like I said, I'm not a huge Star Trek nerd. Not that I don't respect those people. I don't have some expert knowledge of it. I haven't even seen through all of the series yet. I've watched original series probably twice through, and the movies like numerous times, of course. Both series of the movies I've seen lots. And Next Generation, I've only seen every episode once. I mean, I've seen lots of them growing up, and some of them multiple times, watching them again with other people, but I've only seen through that series once. And I'm right now currently just finishing up Season 2 of Deep Space Nine, which I'll actually be finishing when I'm done with this video. So that gives you an idea where you're coming into Star Trek with me, and it's still kind of new to me. I mean, it's not like an unvisited, it's not like a new hood I've never been to before or anything, but I don't know my way around all the corners, if you know what I mean. So we're going to discover that together. Should make for many hundreds of pretty fun, trips back in time down memory lane. So I hope you guys enjoy it. I hope as many of you that see this stay on, as many of you that possibly can. I hope you find some enjoyment here and getting maybe a different point of view. If you're a diehard Star Trek fan, you're one of those people that's like an encyclopedia of knowledge, feel free to correct any mistakes I make when I'm reviewing the videos. I'm not going to be big on like mentioning actors and actresses by name. I'm just going to say like that hairy funny guy that did so-and-so or whatever. But I'm going to do my best to document my genuine opinion of the episodes as a single piece of entertainment and as fitting into the wider picture that is Star Trek. So stay tuned. I hope you enjoy it. I'm going to enjoy this fucking nice glass of coffee, and we will see you back here next time with the first episode of Star Trek Original Series. And when I say that we're going to video review them, I'm hopefully going to include like clips from the videos, you know, maybe some screenshots. I'll take like a picture of my favorite face that was made during the entire episode, because especially in the original series, there's going to be lots of good ones of those. And then we'll show you like a favorite scene from the episode, just to kind of, you know, spark up the memory again and give you a little more incentive to want to rewatch those episodes or watch them for the first time if you've never seen them. So enjoy, and once again, we'll see you back here next time.